Hi, I'm Jessie Ahmet, your host of Valley News Now, and I'm here today with Veronica Redfield. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
And you are a financial advisor specializing on Fed employees and also women empowering and making that one financial decision at a time.
Absolutely. There is a lot that goes on to retirement planning, and you kind of have to tackle it one decision at a time.
It's so overwhelming, and so I have luckily have the great privilege of working with you. And you know, we talked one time about how it just feels overwhelming, and I know you people understand me, because when you don't get it like you do, it just feels like there's a million decisions. I don't understand any of the words. I don't know what is happening, but you don't have to. You can go to Veronica. So start out, tell us first of all your business, Fed Resource ND.
Yep.
And so you do financial planning, retirement planning.
We do a little bit of everything. I kind of drive my husband crazy. He now works with me for a couple of years since COVID, that I try to do anything and everything I can for my clients.
Yeah.
Because it's not just one thing. And
It's your whole life.
It is. And every decision you make with one specific subject affects the next. And so I'm always looking, what can I do to better serve my clients? What can I do to better help them? So I drive my husband crazy because I have all of these ideas to help, which they're great. I mean, we're talking taxes, we're talking some legal stuff, like things like that just
your budget, all these things.
The
Actually,
basics.
when I was looking up to give a little intro, I was like, oh, that's what she does? Because you've done so many other things, you know, you've got, and then you have all these connections. So you've got a resource for, okay, you also need to get your will done. Because like you said, it just affects everything. It's kind of like healthcare in a way. It's like you can't just treat one thing, you got to treat the whole person.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, you got to start from scratch. A lot of people, like when you mention budget, every time I say that to clients, they cringe.
Right. It's like, no.
And I'm like, we're not nickel and diming. We're not going to every cent. I said, we just need to have a rough idea of what you're spending now. And then so we can figure out, can you retire? Because people often say, can I retire? Do these numbers look good?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I need to know what to compare it to first.
Right.
So I have people come in and need $5,000 a month in retirement. I have people who need 12. So depending on what your budget is and what your income actually is, when we put it together, we can't tell you until then.
Right. And we all are doing a budget, kind of. We just maybe all aren't looking at what that is. So it isn't really anything that we're not, you just want to know where's the money going now, and then obviously we can make maybe adjustments later. But you'll be surprised too. I was really surprised when I did my budget that we got to the end and I had money left, and I was like, wait, I have money left? And then you feel so much better about, like, yeah, I can spend this amount of money on entertainment things, you know, for the month, and I don't have to just feel like I can't spend $1 on anything.
Well, and then that peace of mind that you get knowing that you can do this. I think that's huge. So many clients come in and they think they can't because they actually haven't put the numbers to paper.
Nobody wants to because we're scared.
That's it. Everybody who comes in, they say, I'm scared. I don't even want to look at it. Or even like clients that have been clients for years. They'll bring in a stack of stuff. And I had a lady in the other day and she's like, I didn't even want to look at it. But she's like, I organized it. I put it in paper clips for you. And it's all separated. I'm like, next time, just bring it.
Just bring it.
She was so scared to look at everything because she didn't know what it meant. And, But she also said, I'm so thankful that I have you. So that I know someone I could trust to take care of this. So that's also, you know, huge to be able to help relieve that, because then I'm just going through and I'm, you know, shredding and I'm keeping. And
you know what it all is. It's like its own language that I don't personally know, but you know. And so I know it feels very easy for you too. You know, when you're like, I don't know, I'm not really doing that much. It's like, you're only saving my life here. It's fine. And we think that, along with the budget, we think we're saving money by not using a financial planner. Like, well, I'm just going to do that myself. But then we don't actually do it ourselves, and we don't know about it. So going to you, I mean, truly, and this is a non-paid, non-sponsored thing, but it will save you money. I mean, it will. And this is, again, like I said, just literally because I needed this information and I want people to have this information, that this is like not only a time saver, but a money saver, and you're going to end up so much better in the long run.
Well, and you just don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And I tell that to clients all the time, and sometimes like you might think it's an easy solution and you don't realize the ramifications of that choice. And I always tell people, you know, you only hopefully retire once, right?
True.
And
but that isn't actually true, though. I think of my own parents, you know, they retire and then they work part-time and then they retire and then they, you know, they've kind of gone back and forth because the financial thing is it's difficult.
Or that's actually probably the transition of the mental and emotional part of retirement planning too, because some people are really scared to retire because they feel like they'll lose their purpose.
Right.
They won't know what to do. And that's very normal. People have that fear, even if they're excited and they can't wait to get into their job.
Right.
They get that white face or that pale face where they're like, I have no idea what I just did.
Right. And what I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
But if you're planning for it, like you said, then you know, do I need 5,000? Do I need 12,000? I have a girlfriend who actually was probably instrumental in getting me to actually make the move. And she said, you know, it's so nice. She's like, it's so nice to just sit down and be able to talk and then be able to say, you know, I actually want more money than I have now when I retire because I'm going to be traveling more.
Right.
And then I think that kind of speaks to that, what am I going to do with all my time?
Well, most people are so busy with their day-to-day and what's going on now that they don't actually think, what am I going to do when I retire?
Right.
What am I saving for?
Right.
Again, how do I know if I have enough? Because I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
And so that's why I tell people it's never too early also to start that list of what you want to do in retirement.
That's
so that
cool.
when we look at that budget and what you want to do, we need to know what we need to afford.
Yeah.
Because no one ever puts that in there.
No, we just kind of go like budget, la 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 la,
Well,
retirement.
And then the other one, the funny fact that I always get with the budget, speaking of that, is when you put in there, and I have restaurants eating out.
Yeah.
Most people are like, oh, I don't do that. I'm like, but listen.
Yeah.
You're going to retire.
Yep.
You're going to have 40 more hours of your life.
Right.
Depending on your hobbies, where your family is, what do you think you're going to do to see everybody?
Right.
You're going to go out to eat. You're going to go out to coffee. Like, you need to have that budget in there whether you do it or not. And guess what? If you don't use it, you have a cushion for later.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite stories is I have a client, she's like, I don't need out. I'm like, we're putting it in there. We're putting a budget. And it was probably 6 months after she retired, she came into the office and she's like, guess what? I'm like, what? I haven't eaten at home for a whole week. Every meal, not just one.
All the meals.
Breakfast, lunch, and supper for a whole week. She ate. Her and her family ate out the whole time.
That's awesome.
Because they're seeing people. They're doing things. They're getting out of the house.
You actually have time for once. I mean, how many times do you say to a friend, oh, we've got to do coffee. We've got to get together for supper, and you never do it. So I would imagine when you retire, you're like, oh, I can finally do this.
Yes.
But then, like you said, you've got to have a budget for it. So
That's
so cool.
On to that note, like the fun thing about retirement is I have clients that their goal is to take a nap, and that's great. I've learned in my experience that that's okay to have that as a goal for retirement.
Yeah.
And then I have people who are like so much more busy that they're like, how did I do this while I worked?
Right.
But guess what? They're picking their hours. They're picking what they do, and they're choosing what they want to do. Or it's unfortunate but fortunate that they retire at a time where they can care for a family member.
Right.
You know, they can drive them to the doctor's appointments. They can do that. So I've kind of experienced a little of everything.
Yeah.
But just getting through that, and the more you plan, the easier the stuff is to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't work to just put your head in the sand and hope it turns out okay.
No, it does not.
No. So it's so good. You've made it so easy, and that's what especially I wanted to have you on for, is just to help people understand that this is something that you can do to solve that problem, that burden that you have, is to go to a financial planner. So we briefly talked about before we got on, who do you not go to for advice? This is reminding me so much of healthcare though, because we do the same thing, like, hey, what should I do about my sprained ankle or my diet or my this and that, and we go to the wrong people.
Well, I always joke, but I'm not. I say that the worst people get advice from are your friends, coworkers, and family. Not because they don't love you. That's not it.
Yeah.
But what worked for them doesn't necessarily work for you.
Yep.
And by the time they tell you what it is that they may have done,
Yep.
who knows? It's like the game telephone when you were younger. By the time they tell you, how much are they actually missing from the real story?
Right.
And then how much of their backstory means this is not appropriate for you.
Yeah.
Because it worked for them and it doesn't work for you.
Right.
Everybody's situation's so different, and while we love them, but then also the other reason, I'm just like, I could keep going on this subject.
Yeah, no, do it, because that's who we do go to, right? If we eventually go, oh, I don't know what to do, that's probably to a friend or a family member.
Yes.
And then they tell us, the little bits they know,
Yep.
Unless she happens to be your family, you happen to have someone like that. Yeah, and then they tell you the little bits you know. So it is good to remember these are wonderful people in your life, but not the people who have the financial advice.
Right.
Yeah.
And they might have good ideas, but what I've found that sometimes things get lost in transition. So like, I actually find it fun when clients come in and they're saying acronyms that maybe with Social Security, maybe it's federal benefits, maybe it's just something to do with investments, and they're jumbling all of those into one sentence. And so I'm like, okay, we've got a couple topics here. Keep talking. I'll figure out what it is you're trying to ask, and then I'll answer it.
Sure, because I'm sure the acronyms get lost in translation, like the game of telephone. Yeah. So you're calling it a whatever, and you're like, okay, oh, they mean this.
Yep. And then my staff, I'm trying to teach them, but they don't have the experience that I do. So like when someone calls in and they say two different things, they're just like, what am I doing?
Right.
And so when they tell me, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing.
Because you've got that experience.
Yes.
And you've heard it mispronounced and misnamed quite a few times, so you can put that together.
Or sometimes the tail end of the sentence gives me the idea of which direction we're really going.
That's awesome.
But I enjoy that. I mean, just because it's fun to be able to I'm a problem solver. That's what I do. I mean, like when people come in, I'm like, how do we fix this? How do we make this happen? Or what can we do to improve it? So people come to the problem, and those to me are more easy to solve than I want $10,000 a month, but I haven't started saving. What do we do?
Go back in time. No. You have a plan for that too.
Exactly.
Like, how can we get as close to what you want as possible?
Right.
Yeah.
And I always say you're here now, and that's the most important part, because at least you can have an understanding.
Yes.
And I often joke, but not joke, that my job is repetition, because I repeat myself several times, not in a bad way.
Right.
But like you will literally walk into my office, you're like, yep, that makes sense. If you have a spouse, you're like, yep, okay. Walk out the door and be like, what did you just say?
Or you know it for like 2 days, you're like, I got this now. And then like the next month when we have our appointment, I'm like, okay, wait, what was that?
Yep, and that's exactly what happens. So then they'll come back and then they'll ask. I'm like, yep, okay.
Yep.
And then the same thing happens.
That's what we need though. We need that. Yeah, that's part of why you go to financial planners I mean, it makes me think of therapy or, church, anything, like, what was that again? I forgot that really good advice you had.
But that's actually very helpful too, and that's why we meet often, because life happens. So like part of the thing, my core values in the office, I'll bring that in right now.
Yes, we want to talk about the core values.
Peace of mind, trust, balance, and life happens. Being able to come in and have peace of mind to know that you can sit across the table from someone and ask your questions.
Yep.
It's not the friends, coworkers, or family answering their version.
Right.
I'm a very pros and cons person. So you tell me all the good and I'll tell you the bad. Yep. So my goal is that you don't live in regrets. So I hope to give you peace of mind by saying, okay, these are the best and the worst scenarios that could happen with that. Let's make that decision.
Yep.
I also have balance. Balance meaning there's so many people who I run across who they save, and they don't live.
Yeah. You were very good at telling me that too with the budget. I was like, okay, I have this different budget right now, and so I'm going to just be super tightwad. And you're like, actually, you are going to hate your life.
Yes. I mean, I don't know, did I say those exact words? I could see
That's how
myself.
I took it. No, I don't think you did, but I was like, oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
But you have to live today just as much as the future.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad died at 59, so he didn't get much of a life, but that's also why I travel. Like, I like to go on trips to enjoy life in honor of him.
That's awesome.
But
so
that's
it's a balance.
It is.
Yeah, you want to save for the future while yet enjoying today.
Exactly. Yeah. And then life happens. Like, the best part of having a financial plan is when life happens, it's much easier to pivot than it is to start from scratch. Definitely. Because if you have no plan and you decide, I'm going to go get help, well, now you have to figure out where you're at before you figure out the next big thing.
Yep.
Like, what do you do? So knowing that you have a plan in place and life happens, because we could have a perfect plan today and guess what?
Right.
Tomorrow life happens, we got to start all over.
Yep.
We got to make changes. I mean, it's easier to do once you have a foundation.
Tons.
And
it's more of a pivot than
Yes.
than this whole upheaval when you're also having life happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And trust. Did I say trust yet? That
I
was
don't know,
the
but
fourth
it's
one.
worth saying it twice if you haven't. I don't think you did yet.
I don't think, okay.
Which is huge.
It is huge because, like I said, like my clients that come across, they literally bring it to me, their life, and they're like, what do I do? And I help them.
Yeah.
And
you love it. It's your passion that shows through too. I think anybody doing what it is they're passionate about, you can't help but get excited about it too. And you can't help but do it well when that's your passion. And so that's what's so cool about meeting you and getting to work with you, is that your passion shows through. You truly do actually care about people's financial well-being. And you love this stuff. You could just eat this stuff for breakfast, I think, where I'm like, oh, these words, this is making me stressed out. And you're like, yeah, I love it.
And that's my problem, is when I get excited, then I start going really fast and really high speed, and I'm like, okay, Veronica, slow down. When I see clients, like maybe for the first time, and their eyes are glazed over, and they're just sitting there, I'm like, I need to stop,
okay,
don't I? I'm like, and I haven't even gotten started, but I will stop because this is clearly too far right now.
But again, that trust that we know you've got us, you've got our best interests at heart, and it's just really, it's a really good peace of mind. So those all work together really well.
Absolutely. And I do love my job, and I'm always trying to learn and do things, which is probably why I always have ideas of what we could do
which
to
is
fix.
the best thing ever.
Yeah. I had one gentleman, he was sitting across the table and he's asking me all these questions, which are great.
Yeah.
And then he asked me at the end of the day, he's like, does your brain hurt when you go home? And I'm just like, nope.
You're like, no, it like stimulates.
This is fun. This is exciting.
I know. I just realized, like, you're like the most fun nerd I've ever met. I just realized what you do is, can I say that? It's like a little nerdy, right? I mean, it's like numbers and whatever, but you're like so super fun that I forgot that was that kind of a field.
Honestly, I think that's why some of my clients choose me, because I'm not boring.
Totally. And it's a ball coming there. And also, if you just go for the refreshments, this is the best refreshment place you'll ever go. Like coffee, tea, pop, It's just stocked everywhere. Candy. They get to know what kind of candy you like, and then they'll have it ready for you.
Well, I don't like to do anything hangry, so I assume nobody else does.
Yep.
And I do say the Nespresso drinks, you're drinking at your own risk, because I am not a
You're not a barista?
No, yes, I am not one of those. But I mean, I made some good ones, just saying.
Yes, absolutely.
We have the frother in the back.
I don't even think I waited. I think I helped myself. I was like, cool, I got this.
But that's actually what most of my clients do. They come in, I mean, Sue usually helps them.
comfortable.
Yeah, they just come and help themselves, and they know where everything's at. If it's not full, they'll go into the cupboard that it belongs in, and they'll just grab it.
You're so smart that people don't like to do things hangry, and especially numbers or something that's going to overwhelm you. Yeah, very smart, girl.
Actually, we got some stress balls in there, and by accident, because my son was there working one day. He's 5, but he was helping, so he gave my clients, he drew them a picture, and he got them each a colorful star, which are stress balls. And I noticed both clients were just squeezing.
And I have mine at my desk, and I use it quite often. It's like a perfect size.
Yes.
It's a little smaller than like those big ones, and you can just kind of hold it in your hand and just go to town when you need to.
It's got a positive saying on it, or a smiley face, or emoji, whatever. But like having those in there were actually kind of nice too, which is why we now leave them in there, because some clients will just grab them and they're like, no.
Yeah, it just helps. You're like, oh, this went so good, and it's all those special touches. Which, talking about special, we also have your Facebook here, which is amazing. So I'm just going to pull it up. It is Fed Resource ND. So if you're on Facebook, you can just search Fed Resource ND, and she's got great videos too. What you were saying, your social media person's like, hey, just go live. You're like, wait, what? And like, yeah, let's just do it. So you've got some great, like you said, we've got some smart stuff, some good articles mixed in with some fun. I love this. You know you're getting old when you clean to the music you used to party to. We all know what that's like. It's the only way to make it fun.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I wonder which one this one is.
I think that's where I got Sue. I think she didn't know I was coming, and I walked out, and that's either Sue or Molly. I kind of torment my office, and I say I'm just going to stop and ask you a question.
And our goal is here she
Which way am I
is.
going?
Now
Oh,
with the
this is
coffee.
Molly. I got Molly that day.
We love coffee in this office, don't we? Molly, you've been with me now for about a year. What would you say the biggest takeaway you've learned being in this environment?
I think first of all, it's never too early to start saving and setting things up. I have to decipher things Veronica says. 9 times out of 10 are just who knows what.
All
Yes,
the
we
things.
joke
I
about
love it.
that.
So you've got all these fun things too. We did one day when I was there, and it was a great time. So make sure you check out their Facebook page. I gotta just pick your photos, because who doesn't love a puppy photo? And this must be this is your son. Yes,
Yes,
I haven't
that
got
is
to
my
meet him
son.
before. And what's your puppy's name?
Echo.
Oh, stop.
We did a client contest where everyone had to guess the breed, because we rescued him from Turtle Mountain. So that's why there's a few extra pictures on there.
This is
So
adorable.
he's got 15 breeds in him, just saying.
Wow, I
Yeah.
was just gonna ask. Wow, 15. Oh
Yep.
my goodness. So check them out. Check her out, I should say, at Fed Resource ND. Got all the fun stuff on there, and here's your staff. Which one's your hubby here?
My hubby is the one right next to me. Well, actually, no, that's Molly. Right over there.
Oh, I love that. And the husband-wife team is
Yes.
pretty cool too.
It is,
Yeah.
and I joke that we're still married.
No, but for real.
Yes, no, it is really cool because we're very opposite. So he dials
Yeah.
me back. Oh, this is a fun story. So I'm very motivational, and I'm very go, 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 in case
Yes.
you can't tell yet. So he came into my office, because I usually do this to everybody else, and he brought me this little meme, and it says, everyone who tried to climb Mount Everest was once a highly ambitious person, so maybe calm down. And that, right now that's hanging on my desk.
That seems about right.
Yep. But he works very well with me, and so
Awesome. You complement each other.
we do.
That's cool.
He pulls me back, and I pull him forward, and
Yep.
and then Easton, I hope one day that he'll be my succession plan. But the other day, I must not have described it very well, because he ended up with a teacher. He is just starting kindergarten next week, so I had to ask so I could put on his little board what he wants to be when he gets older. But he doesn't want to be anything but a normal person, so we had to come up with something.
I love it. Just a normal person.
Yeah.
Mom.
Why do I have to do anything? I just want to play.
I just want to, me too. That is getting back to retirement.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Full circle right there.
Absolutely.
So we can play a retirement. Oh my goodness. Okay, and we're going to do this on a regular basis. So I'm excited to have you back, Veronica, and
Thank
give
you.
people some advice. I know we kind of wanted to say a generic statement about we're not giving specific advice. So I'll let you word that
Sure.
maybe the way that you want to.
We're not going to give any investment advice on here. We will give education and concepts. What I often tell people is don't ever get a blanket statement where if someone comes on here and tells everybody to do something, do your resources and your due diligence. So if I say something that's a good idea for everyone, it probably is, but do your research and ask somebody to make sure it's right for you. And I usually try to refrain from doing that. I know there's a lot of social media people that say everybody should do this.
That's actually who I thought you were going to say don't get your advice from was TikTok.
Please don't do TikTok. I mean, but so we're not giving investment advice. We're not giving any other type of advice.
Specific,
Yep,
just some education, some concepts, and then go and see them.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, absolutely.
Come have some coffee.
And peanut M&Ms are usually waiting for me. Just
Most chocolate. So someone said the 3 C's: coffee, chocolate, and Coke. That's one of my clients. Just like, I love that.
That is perfect. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. I think my mic is falling. Must be my signal to stop.
I think I almost pulled mine out, so it's probably a good idea.
Sounds good. Again, it's Veronica Redfield from Fed Resource ND. You can check them out on Facebook. You can check them out online. And I'm your host of Valley News Now, Jessie Allen.